Wherein, supposedly normal naman yung weight nila. Psychological problem to. Okay, anong ginagawa nila? This is actually a problem na pwede mo makita sa mga model. Di ba pansinin yung mga model sa runway? Mga model sa runway parang butot balat na sila technically speaking. Okay, hindi pong pwede kang mag-aral ng anatomy and physiology of the skeletal system. Okay, so sobrang kita-kita mo na yung mga ribs nila, rib cage and everything. Okay, pero either way, minsan kasi yung mga model, may mga problems sila in line with their weight. Okay, minsan yung iba sa kanila may tinatawag na anorexia nervosa. So minsan ang ginagawa nila is ganito, kakain sila. Kumakain naman sila just to satisfy their stomach, okay, para lang masatisfy, makakain yung stomach nila. Pero after nilang kumain, anong ginagawa nila? They would go to the restroom. And they would play with their throat. Okay? With their finger, paglalaroan nila yung throat nila to induce vomiting. Okay? Para hindi nila ma-absorb yung kinain nila. Okay? Para isuka nila yung kinain nila, hindi nila ma-absorb. Okay? At least hindi sila madadagdagan ng timbang. So, minsan ganun ang ginagawa nila. And by the way, that is not normal ha. You're not supposed to do that. Okay? Hindi natin dapat isinusuka yung kinakain natin. Pero yung iba, ginagawa yon para hindi sila madagdagan ng timbang. Okay? Ma'am, bakit hindi siya advisable? Well, laging tatandaan, kapag sumusuka ka, umakyat yung acid. Your stomach is protected from the acid, but your esophagus is not. Ang esophagus natin, hindi yan protektado from the acid. So if you're always inducing vomiting, if you always push yourself to vomit out what you have eaten, the acids are constantly going up through the esophagus natin. Nalalapnos ang esophagus natin with constant exposure to the acid. Kaya pwede kang magkaroon ng tinatawag na esophageal rupture. Worst case scenario, may tinatawag na esophageal cancer ha. May cancer of the esophagus. And pwedeng mangyari yan kapag palaging nasusunog yung esophagus mo sa acids coming from the stomach natin. Okay, kaya hindi maganda no, na palagi kang nagvo-vomit na nagvo-vomit. Okay, so therefore, lesson for the day, choose the healthiest way no, ng diet. And again, as mentioned last time, the healthiest form pa rin ng diet is to limit what we have eaten, pero hindi naman totally hindi ka nakakain ha. Limitation lang. Okay, limitation and syempre with proper exercise pa rin. Okay, kasi exercise alone will not really help us lose weight. Mas magandang i-combine siya with proper diet. Okay, pero either way, yan pala yung reason no, kung bakit diabetic individuals may exhibit weight loss. It actually has something to do with the ketones. Kasi okay, pero bottom line, recall question yung tatlong conditions ha, that would give us a positive na ketone. Positive ketones can be seen in diabetes mellitus, in vomiting, and even in starvation. Okay? However, ma'am, sabi mo connected yung increased ketones sa decrease na pH. Bakit nagdi-decrease ang pH kapag positive ang okay, ano kaya ang reason behind it? Okay, ganito yan. Diba sa AUBF may tatlong forms ang ketones natin? Are you familiar with the three forms of your ketones? Meron tayo una, si beta hydroxybutyric acid, which accounts to 78%. Okay, 78% of the ketones will be what we call the beta hydroxybutyric acid. Aside from that, meron tayong tinatawag na acetoacetic acid. Tinatawag din sa ibang libro as the diacetic acid, and this one accounts to 20%. Okay, so nasa 20% to ng ketones natin. And the remaining 2% is your acetone. Acetone accounts to the remaining 2% of the ketone population natin. Okay, recall question ha. Pinakamadami sa mga ketones natin, si beta-hydroxybutyric acid. And don't forget the percentages kasi tinatanong yan, especially sa AUBF. However, what have you noticed sa mga ketones natin? 78% ay beta-hydroxybutyric acid. Tapos 20% acetoacetic acid. 78 plus 20, 98. 98% of your ketones are acids. Remember, pag diabetic ka, marami kang ketones. Ano mangyari pag marami kang ketones? Since karamihan ng ketones mo ay acid, ano mangyari? Magiging acidic ang pH. Magkakaroon ka ng mababang pH. Okay, so therefore, connected pala yung item letter F natin, decrease na pH dun sa naunang item, ketones. Since most of your ketones are acidic by nature, pag maraming ketones brought about by the diabetes, pwedeng magkaroon ng acidic na pH. Now, that's the logic behind what we call the DKA. Familiar ba sa DKA? Diabetic ketoacidosis. Ano ba nangyayari kapag diabetic ketoacidosis? Nagkakaroon ka ng acidosis. Nagiging acidic ang pH mo. Bakit? Dahil sa ketones. Bakit ka nagkaroon ng ketones? Dahil ikaw ay diabetic. So that's why we call it the diabetic ketoacidosis. So therefore, connected pala yung increased ketones, no? Doon sa panghuling item natin, doon sa tinatawag nating decrease na pH, kasi again, most of your ketones are acidic by nature. And that leads to an acidic pH, mababang pH particularly. In short, napansin nyo ba? Biro mo hyperglycemia lang, no? Napakaraming connected. Napakadaming possible effect ng mataas na glucose. Nakakaapekto yan sa timbang, nakakaapekto yan sa fat metabolism natin, pati pH ng blood natin can be affected ng hyperglycemia. So that's why as much as possible, we have to regulate the blood glucose natin. We need to, as much as possible, maintain it back to the normal na levels. Okay? Pero either way, that officially concludes the hyperglycemia topic natin. Okay, so that means tapos na tayo sa ating carbohydrates. By the way, napansin nyo, napakahaba. Napakahaba nung ating alin, napakahaba nung topic natin about the carbohydrates kasi isa sa mga problema sa Pilipinas is maraming alin. Maraming taong mataas ang sugar. Okay, kasi ang Pilipinas kasi is more of a kanin population. Okay, tayo ay mahilig sa kanin. Yung tipong kahit mag-only rice ka, no, okay lang kahit walang ulam, kahit chicken oil and ano lang, toyo lang na makaka-survive kayo mga gano moment. Okay, pero technically yun yung reason kung bakit isa talaga ang diabetes na doon sa nagiging concern natin. Okay, pero either way, next to the carbohydrate topic, we will be having the lipids. Ma'am, bakit nga pala lipids ang isinunod mo, ma'am? Kasi 'di ba remember, kapag marami kang sugar, marami kang carbohydrates, some of them will be converted into lipids. Okay, 'di ba kapag marami kang masyadong glucose, excess glucose will lead to lipogenesis. Some of them will be converted into lipids. Uy, speaking of the lipids, ano ba dapat nating tandaan sa lipids? Kagaya ng carbohydrates, ang lipids natin ay malaking pamilya rin ng mga substances and similar sila halos sa carbohydrate, ano? Kasi they're also made up of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. So halos kamukha nila yung carbohydrate natin, no? They still have carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. However, ang isa sa main difference niya with your carbohydrates is that most of your lipids are water insoluble. Most ha, pero may mga konting exception. Pero most of the lipids natin, they do not dissolve well with water. However, marami rin tayong lipids ha, pero ang i-discuss lang natin is yung mga lipids that we usually measure in the laboratory. Ano-ano ba yung mga lipids na mini-measure natin? In the laboratory, we measure the triglycerides, the cholesterol, we sometimes detect for the phospholipids, and we sometimes measure for the fatty acid. Pero usually kapag usapang serum, no, madalas ang mini-measure natin si triglyceride at si cholesterol. Nagme-measure din naman tayo ng phospholipid, pero minsan sa body fluids natin yan, mine-measure. Okay, minsan nagme-measure din tayo ng fatty acid, pero kadalasan sa stool tayo nagde-detect ng fatty acid. Okay, kung naalala nyo pa, di ba meron tayong neutral fat stain at saka split fat stain sa fecalysis. Okay,
Mm.
technically yung fatty acids, no, nade-detect natin yun or pwede natin yung i-detect on the stool analysis. Pero either way, yan yung apat na most common form of lipids na madalas minimeasure in the laboratory. Pero syempre, let's try to describe them up first. Start tayo with the triglyceride. Okay, by the way, di ba ang triglyceride kadalasan sa page number 6 ng notes natin, ang triglyceride natin, shortcut natin siya as TAG. Bakit pala ang shortcut ng triglyceride ay TAG? Ang original na name kasi ng triglyceride ay triacylglycerol or glycerol. Okay, triacylglycerol or glycerol kasi siya, kaya kadalasan na shortcut natin sa kanya ay TAG. Bakit nga pala siya tinawag na triacylglycerol? Kasi usually, they are made up of a glycerol backbone. Tapos, from the glycerol backbone na yan, may nakadikit na tatlong acyl. Pag sinabing acyl, it pertains to your fatty acid. Kaya pala siya tinawag na triacyl kasi may tatlong fatty acid na nakakabit sa glycerol. So hence we call it the triacyl glycerol. Okay, so they possess three molecules of fatty acids ha, at naka-attach yun sa glycerol. And ano bang main purpose ng triglyceride natin? Well, it is actually intended as a main storage form of lipid in humans. Pwede mo siyang magamit na insulator. Moreover, importante siya as shock absorber, especially ng mga organs mo in the abdominal region. 'Di ba yung abdominal region or yung tiyan natin, technically wala namang buto diyan na nagpoprotekta sa intestine mo, poprotekta sa liver mo and everything. Technically, ang nagpoprotekta sa mga organs natin in the abdominal region is yung taba na nasa abdomen natin. So technically, ginagamit pala yung fat in the abdominal region, the triglyceride in the adipose tissues of your abdominal region, ginagamit yan as shock absorber. Kaya kahit nasagi na yung tiyan mo, kahit nasuntok na yung tiyan mo at lahat-lahat, no, okay pa rin yung mga internal organs mo in there. Kasi you have in there the fats, the triglycerides, no, that serves as shock absorber. So therefore, importante yan taba sa tiyan ha. Isipin nyo na lang na investment yan. It means that you're just trying to protect the internal organs mo in the abdominal region. Okay, pero either way, yan yung purpose ng triglyceride natin. Pero they can also serve ha as an integral part of the cell membrane. Okay? However, next to your triglyceride, we also have in your notes the cholesterol. Ang cholesterol pala, part din pala siya ng cell membrane. Kaya naririnig din natin yan sa hematology eh. We can actually hear that in hematology. Kasi ang red blood cell pala, may mga naka-embed na cholesterol in there. At alam niyo ba, yung cholesterol sa red cell, yan nabibigay ng strength sa red cell. Para kahit i-squeeze mo si red cell, hindi nasisira yung cell membrane ng red cell. Kahit sumuot siya sa maliliit na blood vessels, hindi nasisira ang cell membrane. Ang nagbibigay daw pala kasi ng strength sa cell membrane, lalo na mga red cells natin, is the cholesterol. In short, importante naman si cholesterol ha. Ang masama lang talaga ay sobra. Sobrang cholesterol yung masama. Okay? Pero technically, importante naman talaga ang cholesterol. Aside from being part of the cell membrane, importante rin ang cholesterol para makabuo tayo ng mga hormones. Which brings us to a recall question ha. Sino-sino pala yung mga hormones na nangangailangan ng cholesterol? We collectively call them the steroid hormones. Okay, kadalasan pag steroid hormones, sila yung mga cholesterol-based na hormone. Okay, recall question ha. Sino daw pala yung mga endocrine glands na nakakapag-produce ng cholesterol-based na hormone or mga tinatawag nating mga steroid hormones? Meron tayong dalawang major endocrine gland na nakakapag-produce ng mga steroid hormone. Number one is the adrenal glands. To be more specific, di ba may dalawang parte si adrenal gland? Meron tayong tinatawag na adrenal cortex at meron tayong tinatawag na adrenal medulla. Between the cortex and medulla, sino yung nagpo-produce ng cholesterol or steroid-based na hormone? Kadalasan they are produced specifically by the adrenal cortex. Okay, sino yung mga example? Mga example ng mga steroid hormones na napoproduce ng adrenal cortex. Number one is your aldosterone. Aside from that, cortisol. And remember, ang adrenal cortex natin ha, nakakapag-produce din yan ng mga weak androgens, mga weak na male sex hormones. Okay, so weak androgens can also be produced by the adrenal cortex. Okay? So ito yung mga example ng cholesterol-based na hormones that can be produced by the adrenal cortex. Aside from that, syempre, another good example of endocrine gland that can produce cholesterol-based na hormone ay ang mga gonads. When you say gonads ha, this would include the ovaries and The testes. Okay, so ovaries and the testes, we collectively call them the gonads. And syempre, ano bang pinoproduce ng mga gonads? Sila yung nagpo-produce ng mga sex hormones. And sex hormones are also cholesterol-based na mga hormones. So sex hormones such as your estrogen, testosterone, o kaya progesterone, they are the sex hormones and they are also based on cholesterol. Again ha, minsan they would ask you for the endocrine glands that would produce cholesterol-based na hormone. Pero sometimes they would ask you for the example. Examples ng mga hormone na may at saka the gonads, and again, gonads would include the ovaries and the testes. Pero minsan, they would ask you for the name of the hormones. Name of the hormones, aldosterone, cortisol, and sex hormones. Recall question yan. They contain or they are examples of hormones that contain cholesterol. Pero bottom line, again, cholesterol is quite important, no? Kasi they are necessary for the production of certain hormones and they are also part of the cell membrane natin. Okay? However, ingat nga pala kayo kasi may dalawang forms ang cholesterol in the body. Okay? May dalawang anyo ang cholesterol in the body. O ingat kayo ha, hindi ito yung good and bad cholesterol. May dalawang klase ng cholesterol based on their appearance, based on their form. In your notes, meron tayong tinatawag na cholesterol ester at meron tayong tinatawag na free cholesterol. Okay, sa mga lumang libro nga pala, minsan ang tawag sa kanya, nandiyan naman yata sa notes natin, tinatawag siyang esterified cholesterol. Okay, sa mga lumang libro kasi, kadalasan ang tawag sa kanya ay esterified cholesterol. Pero siya rin naman nowadays yung tinatawag nating cholesterol ester. And the other one is your free cholesterol. By the way, recall question yung percent ha. Cholesterol esters account to 70% of the total cholesterol, whereas the remaining 30% will be the free cholesterol. So, mas madami ang cholesterol ester kesa sa free cholesterol. Again ha, recall question yung percent, so try to be familiar with them. Pero ma'am, sabi mo, yan yung dalawang klase ng cholesterol based on their appearance. Ano bang difference sa appearance, ma'am, ng esterified cholesterol at ng mga free cholesterol? Well, actually, as the name suggests, no, esterified cholesterol pertains to your cholesterol ring na esterified daw. Pag sinabing esterified, may nakakabit na ester. And ester pertains to fatty acid. So therefore, pag sinabi palang cholesterol ester, it pertains to your cholesterol na may naka-attach na ester or fatty acid. That's why they call it the cholesterol ester, esterified cholesterol. Eh anong ibig sabihin pag sinabing free cholesterol? As the name suggests, free cholesterol, free, malaya, walang attachment. Walang nakadikit sa kanya. They're simply made up of cholesterol ring as it is. Walang nakadikit na kahit na ano fatty acid. So wag kakalimutan ha, yan lang naman yung dalawang klase ng cholesterol based on how they look like, based on their appearance, and wag niyong kakalimutan yan. Kasi may mga recall questions tayo about them later on when we go to the methods of cholesterol analysis. Pero for the meantime, huwag kakalimutan yung itsura nila at kung ilang percent sila. 70% si cholesterol ester, 30% si free cholesterol. Babalikan natin yan later on when we go to the methods of cholesterol analysis. Okay? Next to the cholesterol, we also have the phospholipid. Si phospholipid ha, muntik niya nang maging kamuka si triglyceride. Muntik niya na maging kamukha si triglyceride kasi meron din siyang glycerol backbone. Meron din siyang glycerol backbone at may nakadikit din sa kanyang mga fatty acid. Yun nga lang, dalawang fatty acid lang. Instead of having a third fatty acid, yung pangatlong fatty acid ay pinalitan ng phosphate. That's why they ended up calling it the phospholipid. And usually, saan natin naririnig si phospholipid? Number one, naririnig natin yan dati sa zoology, sa botany, sa cytology. Kasi phospholipid makes up your cell membrane. Di ba yan yung tinatawag natin kadalasan as the phospholipid bilayer? Ang cell membrane kasi natin, they are made up of two layers of phospholipid. So that's why we call it the phospholipid bilayer. However, ang phospholipid, binameasure natin to sa laboratory eh. Pero, hindi sa blood. Kadalasan, ang phospholipid, pwede mo tong i-measure sa amniotic fluid. Uy, teka ma'am, bakit tayo nagme-measure ng phospholipid in amniotic fluid? Ginagamit kasi to to assess the so-called FLM. FLM, naalala niyo po ba si FLM? Fetal lung maturity. At isa sa mga example ng test natin for the fetal lung maturity ay si LS ratio, di ba? Ano ngang meaning ng LS ratio natin? The lecithin sphingomyelin ratio. Ang importante dito ay si lecithin. Lecithin is an example of a phospholipid. And laging tatandaan ha, pag sinabing mataas ang LS ratio, ibig sabihin, mature ang lungs mo. Kasi nagiging mature ang lungs kapag maraming present na phospholipid. By the way, ano ba ang purpose ng phospholipid in the lungs? Bakit nga pala may phospholipid sa lungs? Ano bang purpose ng phospholipids in the lungs? Actually, ang purpose niyan is to serve as surfactant or in short, pwede mo siyang gamiting lubricant ng lungs natin. Lubricant pala ng lungs yung phospholipid. Okay? Para kapag nag-inhale ka, expandable pa yung lungs mo. Pag nag-exhale ka, ma-deflate man yung lungs mo, at least hindi magdidikit-dikit yung walls ng baga natin. So, para hindi magdikit-dikit yung walls ng baga, maging inflatable pa siya ulit, kailangan ng lubricant inside, yung nagsaserve as surfactant or lubricant in the lungs will be the phospholipid. And alam nyo ba sa mga chronic smoker, nagde-decrease ang phospholipid nila. Kaya sooner or later, with chronic smoking na issues, tendency, hindi na nakakapag-inhale na maayos yung lungs, hindi na nakakapag-exhale ng maayos yung lungs. Kaya hindi na tuloy siya nagiging inflatable due to the lack of the phospholipids. Pero bottom line, importante pala sa lungs ang phospholipid. Kaya dinedetect yan, no? Pwede siyang i-detect sa amniotic fluid for assessment ng fetal lung maturity. Okay? Fetal lung maturity kasi pag maraming phospholipid, that means mature na ang lungs, particularly ng baby. By the way, ba't nga pala natin ina-assess? Or bakit gusto nating malaman kung mature na ang lungs ni baby? Why do we want to know if mature na ang lungs ni baby? Actually, ginagamit yan especially para malaman ni doctor kung pwede bang ilabas prematurely si baby. Di ba minsan kasi may mga premature na baby? May mga baby na wala pa sa 9 months, hindi pa husto yung gestational age nila, pero minsan for the safety nung baby at saka nung mommy na rin, minsan kailangang ilabas si baby ng maaga. Pero hindi basta-basta naglalabas ng baby ha. Hindi basta-basta inilalabas si baby prematurely. Bago ilabas si baby prematurely, ano muna yung kailangan malaman ni doktor? Kailangan malaman ni doktor, makakahinga ba to? Kailangan natin to ilabas, kaso makakahinga na ba to? Can this baby actually breathe? Kailangan malaman mo ni doctor kung kakayanin na bang huminga ni baby. So, paano malalaman ni doctor if the baby can actually breathe or not? I-check niya yung maturity ng lungs ni baby. Okay? Kasi kung mature na yung lungs ni baby, the baby would be able to breathe on his or her own the moment na mailabas mo siya premature. Okay, so therefore ha, hindi basta-basta naglalabas ng premature na baby. Bago ilabas ang premature na baby, the doctor has to know if mature enough na ba yung lungs ni baby, would they be able to breathe if they were to be released prematurely. Okay, premature na baby, naalala ko dati sabi ng lola ko, premature na baby, ito daw yung mga topakin kapag lumaki. Okay, madalas sinasabi ng lola ko yun, ay, kaya yan topakin kasi kulang yan sa buwan. Okay, yun yung term niya. Ay, topakin yan, intindihin mo na lang yan, kulang kasi yan sa buwan, kaya yan. Topakin. Uy, hindi ganun ha. Hindi lahat ng kulang sa buwan ay topakin. At hindi lahat ng topakin ay kulang sa buwan. May mga taong sadyang topakin lang talaga kahit hindi naman sila kulang sa buwan. Okay, pero either way ha, kasabihan lang yon. Pero hindi lahat, hindi naman lahat, okay? Huwag niyo i-generalize. Hindi lahat ng topakin ay kulang sa buwan at hindi lahat ng kulang sa buwan ay Topakin. Pero either way, going back to the main issue, yung pala yung importance no, why we have to measure the phospholipid, particularly in the amniotic fluid. We don't really measure them in the blood, pero we can measure them in the other body fluids, such as the amniotic fluid. Okay? However, last item, we have the allen. We also have the fatty acids. Okay, fatty acids naman are like the building blocks of your lipids. Okay, building blocks of the lipids pala yan. Okay, di ba kung lalagyan natin ng analogy, ang amino acids are the building blocks of your protein. Si fatty acid naman, okay, fatty acids naman are the building blocks of your lipids. At meron pa yung isa, di ba? Di ba may building blocks din tayo ng nucleic acid? The nucleotides. Okay, nucleotides naman are like the building blocks of your nucleic acid, of the DNA, and of the RNA. Okay, pero bottom line, fatty acids are the building blocks of your lipids kasi mapapansin nyo, halos karamihan ng lipids natin ay may lamang fatty acid. Okay, cholesterol, pwedeng may fatty acid. Yung triglyceride nga natin, may 3 fatty acid. Phospholipid nga natin meron 2 fatty acids. So si fatty acid, makikita natin sa halos lahat ng lipids. Kaya naman they're famous for being the building blocks of your lipids. Okay? When we go to proteins, pag-uusapan naman natin si pag-uusapan naman natin si amino acids. Amino acids naman are like the building blocks naman of the proteins. And we will be tackling this one later when we go to the proteins. Okay, pero for the meantime, yun yung 4 na major lipids, no, that we can measure in the laboratory, not just in the chemistry department, but across different departments of the laboratory. Pwede tayo mag-measure ng triglyceride, ng cholesterol, fatty acids, and phospholipids. Another important thing, sabi natin, karamihan sa mga lipids natin ay water insoluble. Most, pero hindi lahat, most of the lipids natin are water insoluble, meaning they don't dissolve well with water. So hala, malaking problema. 'Di ba? Ang blood natin is made up of plasma, and plasma is 90% water. Plasma is 90% water, 10% na solute yan. Hala, karamihan ng plasma natin ay water, tapos yung lipids natin water insoluble. Anong gagawin natin, ma'am? Paano makakapaglakbay ang lipids natin in the blood? So, para makapag-travel ang lipids in the blood, kailangan lamang nila ng protein carriers. And speaking of the protein carrier, ano nga bang tawag natin sa mga protein carrier ng lipids natin? We collectively call them the lipoprotein. Okay, so lipoprotein, as the name suggests, ito yung mga proteins na nagtatransport ng lipids. And what makes up the lipoprotein? So, syempre, meron silang lamang lipid at meron silang laman na apolipoprotein. Uy, ano nga pala si apolipoprotein? Kapag may apo, automatic protein yan. Apolipoprotein is the protein portion of the lipoprotein. Kadalasan pag may word na apo, protein portion ang ibig niyang sabihin. May encounter din natin to later on kasi may word tayo na apoenzyme Pag apoenzyme naman, protein portion of the enzyme. Okay, so therefore, kapag nakikita niyo yung prefix na apo, kadalasan ang meaning niyan ay protein portion. So apolipoprotein is the protein portion of the lipoprotein. And apoenzyme later on is the protein portion naman of your enzyme. Pero bottom line, ang mga lipids natin, since they are water insoluble, they must be transported by the lipoproteins. And lipoproteins are made up of lipids at apolipoprotein. And in your notes, meron tayong listahan dyan, ng iba't ibang apolipoproteins. Pero so far, kindly highlight the 3 important recall questions. Recall question number 1, si ApoA1. Tinanong lang naman kung sa anong lipoprotein matatagpuan si ApoA1. Nandiyan naman sa table sa notes natin, ApoA1 can be found in your HDL. Another recall question, nandiyan sa table sa page number 6 is yung ating ApoB48. Si ApoB48 naman, matatagpuan naman natin to sa chylomicrons. And finally, we also have the ApoB100, which can be seen naman in the LDL, and also in the VLDL. Okay, so far, nandyan sa notes natin yung kumpletong table, kung saan sila matatagpuan at kung ano yung mga distinct functions nila. Pero so far, wag kakalimutan, recall question. Sometimes they would ask you where the ApoA1, the ApoB48, and the ApoB100 would be found. Okay, so ApoA1 is found in the HDL, ApoB48 is found in your chylomicrons, and ApoB100 naman can be found in both the LDL and the VLDL. Okay, pero again, apolipoproteins are the protein portions of the lipoprotein natin. Okay? However, aside from their apolipoprotein na content, another good way to differentiate the lipoproteins is through their function. Meron kasi tayong dalawang lipoprotein na nagtatransport ng triglyceride at meron tayong dalawang lipoprotein na nagtatransport ng cholesterol. Sino daw pala yung dalawang nagtatransport ng triglyceride? Si chylomicron at si VLDL. Sino naman daw yung dalawang nagtatransport ng cholesterol? Yung ating HDL and yung ating VLDL. However, anong difference ni chylomicron sa VLDL? Anong difference ng ating LDL sa HDL? Pag-uusapan natin after the lunch break. Okay, so lunch break muna kasi mahaba-habang discussion pa etong lipoproteins natin according to function, but we'll try to tackle that after the 1 hour na lunch break. Okay, so continuation tayo ng discussion after 1 hour. See you after 1 hour. Next topic natin, okay, lipoproteins according to their function. Okay, thank you and see you after the break.